Thank you. I've got to find the packet. Okay. We're starting a little bit late, but ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call this special called budget meeting of the B County Commissioners Court to order. Today is Monday, August 14th, 2023. The time is 10:53 a.m. We are physically located at B County Courthouse, Commissioners Courtroom, number 110, 105 West Corpus Christi Street, Beeville, Texas, 78102. That was agenda item number 1, the call to order. Moving on, deliberate and consider action on the following items. Agenda item number 2, budget workshop for proposed B County budget fiscal year, fiscal FY 2023-2024. Madam Auditor, I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
I would respectfully request that this one be moved down so that we can hear our tax rate information and give the court better understanding of what we're looking at prior to going into the budget and making decisions that we need to for that document.
Absolutely, I'll do that right now. We're going to move on from agenda item number 2, but we will come back to it, so we're not passing it, we're not tabling it. Move on for right now to agenda item number 3, submission of roll to governing body as per section 26.04 subpart B of the property tax code. Mrs. Mattis, you are tax assessor collector. You have the floor.
Good morning. So I have submitted the roll to, this has all of the collections that we have expectations of collecting this year. And that's the only portion that I do on the submission of the roll.
Okay.
This is not the one where with all the verbiage. That's later on.
So it's just one-page document?
It also includes your
all of the backup?
Calculation worksheet, but this is just the submission.
The calculation worksheet? Does anybody have any questions over the calculation worksheet? Looks like our tax rate per 100 is dipping down a little bit this year. Does that have to do with increase in valuations across the county?
Yes, sir. It's the increase in that.
Ms. Mattis, you and I talked about the wind farms, and you were going to bring the amount of taxes they were paying?
We have not been able to get that. We're still pending one of the payments for a reimbursement, so we've held off on that for just a moment.
Okay, so we don't know yet how much is coming from any of them?
No, not yet.
Do any protest numbers? No?
But we are there still protesting about 600 more. We're still pending.
The current county appraisal district protests
They're
are still ongoing?
Yes, sir. So these final numbers are excluding what is still pending.
And in your worksheet, I think you included that, and so those are carved out. And so if they do anything, they would only improve the situation as far as valuation purposes go.
Yes, sir.
And it may change, I guess, by decreasing the tax numbers a little bit if the valuation overall goes up. Is that right? Is any type of formal roll call motion required for this?
No, sir, not on this. This is just my submission to the court.
Do we need to vote to approve this submission, or is it not an action item?
I believe it's just a submission.
It's just a submission roll.
Okay. Any further questions, Mrs. Mattis? Was something else to go through these worksheets?
Yes. When I started out, we had 50 questions. Now there's 80.
Yeah, it was. And I would make
And
note.
that's 80 per entity, because they all have county and farm to market.
And I know we've got a lot today, but I do want to just ask you one question. Unfortunately, in a public, I could do this privately, but I'm just going to do it this way. Towards the end of the packet, you have the voter approval tax rate adjustment for unused increment rate. We have no unused increment for the past 3 years. I understand the explanation. But what I wanted to know, is this a situation where if in the last, in one of the previous 3 years, we had either done the no new revenue rate or a rate below the voter approval rate, that we could come back and grab that extra tax
Correct.
amount, penny or whatever it is? Okay. So if we ever don't go up to the full limit that we're allowed to by statute, then we have a trailing 3-year period that we could go back in time and grab that. Okay. Any further questions?
No, just you understand that, Judge. Thank you.
Yeah,
Well, I know
Michelle,
Live
I
Oak
did it last year, and I was wondering.
Okay, and I think that's what it is.
They
You
go
can-
back and grab it?
They went back and
go
grabbed the
back and
penny,
grab
yeah.
it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this worksheet is new to me. I'm not afraid to say that, so I'm probably going to get with you offline
Oh,
just to better understand the mechanics.
Yeah, and I can show you every place you get these ones.
Okay.
I'm sure Commissioner Legatus is eager and excited for that discussion. Okay. Do we have anything further on this agenda item? Okay, we'll move on. Agenda item number 4, presentation of no new revenue and voter approval tax rates to the governing body by tax assessor and collector. Mrs. Mattis, you still have the floor. Please
Okay,
proceed.
and also on this sheet, right on the bottom, I've highlighted it for you, is the presentation of the no new revenue rate of .46470 and the voter approval rate of .48564. And these are correct numbers, isn't it?
And again, just for clarification to our community and anybody in the audience today, our tax rate last year was 0.58891. Is that correct?
0.59.
.59241.
My apologies. Where do we? Which of these 80 questions were I submit?
So it's gone, am I hearing this correctly, it's gone down?
Yes,
Yes,
it's gone
rate-
down
because of the
values have
value
gone.
The
goes
tax
up.
rate has
You were
gone down
looking at
roughly,
line 4, Judge, but that does
11.
not include the county farm to market road. You have to include that one as
the
well.
tax rate's gone down roughly 11 cents.
That's the only reason. you see those, full amount there.
.1068.
Point 106.
The ones that saw, the most of that was.
Almost 11 cents.
Yes.
That ag drop.
Well, the
The values
values
have increased.
plus the increase from the wind farms.
I know.
I keep going back to the wind farm because we anticipated about 3 million coming in from the one north of Mineral.
Correct.
You said the number last year was 59241?
59241.
Okay, yeah, no, I completely understand these charts now.
You don't have to work on
Good
it.
luck, Commissioner.
It takes, yeah, it takes some time for sure.
So that is my presentation.
Okay.
Just a question, and you probably can't answer it. It's my understanding there'll be a constitutional amendment in November to increase the homestead rate for everyone in Texas.
Actually, that should be here in September.
But it has to be approved by the voters in November
Yes, sir.
for it to be effective. But it's going to be retroactive, correct?
It is already included in the worksheets for the
Okay.
entity that it needs. It's only including the schools.
So-
It was only applied to the schools, not to the counties.
Right, but it's in the worksheets, and
It
it
is
would
in
be
the-
reflected in the tax instruments that come out in October?
Correct.
Okay, anticipating that the voters will approve it in November?
Correct.
Okay.
And I believe that's for 2 years.
And if that does not happen, then we'll be sending out a lot of updated statements.
I don't know how it couldn't happen,
I can't tell you.
but you never know with government.
Well, hopefully we don't have to send out updated statements. That sounds expensive.
That goes to the entity.
A change.
Oh, just to the entity?
The
Oh, that's
school
not bad.
districts. Yeah.
Oh, they pay for it?
Yeah, they'll have to pay for their own.
Well, I hope they don't have to pay for it.
I don't, they don't either. They don't have funding.
Yes.
And I guess that's one of the good things about your tax base growing in the county is, proportionately speaking, your individual tax burden should decrease proportionately when we have, as Commissioner DeWitt is trying to get information on, when we have big industrial developments like wind farms. We have one wind farm in B County that is subject to a tax abatement. So the hundreds of millions of dollars that they've invested don't actually add to the total pie that generates our tax revenue. But the Helena wind farm project in North B County and our friends there at the Orsted, their taxable value goes into that overall pie, so it will proportionately reduce every other individual taxpayer's tax burden as a result of that. And that's one of the hidden benefits to really looking at tax abatements from entities to see what value are they bringing to the community. And if they aren't adding jobs, then the only value that they bring to the community is adding tax base. And so we shouldn't willy-nilly give that up. So I think that's I'll be interested to see how that impacts the total number. But this is all good news, and it's good news for our taxpayers.
And we have that one out of Papalote too, Judge. It doesn't have.
That's right.
We have
That's
two.
right. So, okay, so that's the presentation. Any further discussion, questions? Thank you, Mrs. Mattis. Moving on to agenda item. We're moving on to agenda item number 5 at this time. Mrs. Canty?
Well, it depends if y'all want to propose the tax rate, or if you want to just see what I have, have figured in and then propose it.
I kind of like that better. Do y'all feel better? We're kind of talking budget
Absolutely.
numbers before we talk about setting the rate.
Yes.
Then we're going to go back to agenda item number 2. I'll recall it. Agenda item number 2, budget workshop for proposed B County budget fiscal year FY 2023-2024. I know I'm going to throw a wrench in this, but Mrs. Cantu, you have the floor.
So if you look at your packets that Patricia passed out to you this morning, at the top of the packet, you'll see a good little spreadsheet that Patricia, a little snapshot of what the additional salary recommendations were that the court accepted. These are not worked into the budget that you have in front of you. So this kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking at per department and what's left to discuss if you would like to. But if you want to go to the second page, actually third page, to see what our red line currently is, you can see what we're working with. And if you see my little disclaimer there, I have a fund balance to be used for a one-time capital outlay expense for the IT department build out at the tax office. So in that building department, we have a $500,000 marker in there, which you might want to give me guidance on that, because the one bid we did receive was over that
That's why I
amount.
was pulling back, because our engineer had kind of given us direction on that. He said we should be between 3 and 4, his guesstimate. And we only got one single bid in for 5.5.
We had talked possibly about, when we awarded the bid for the EOC, talking to that contractor about that facility. Is that something we can do, Madam Auditor?
When Jen and I initially reached out to Angela, our admin for our grant, the grant monies, she said that was not allowable. We're still talking about, she was going to talk with Mr. Mercer, but we haven't flushed that out.
Okay, because that was 2 different pots of money.
It's 2 different pots of
That had nothing
money.
to do with the grant money.
You're
No.
correct. But we were looking at maybe saving some time.
IT build out.
The IT build out, we're talking about the contractor that got awarded.
That's what should
DOC.
happen. Now that we're going to go into
This, maybe give us a better price.
Well, he's done that before because of the size of the second
Right.
project.
Right.
And so
There's a
he
way to
might
do
have
it.
been able to do
Right.
that
We have another
in his
project we'll be taking bids
private
on.
sector,
They
but
can't get the hint on that.
So,
Right, but and the thing that could happen though, let's say we go with company ABZ over here, we say, hey, ABZ, you need to bid on that IT building down there, it's open right now. That can be done, I know.
Are they capable of doing that?
Well, if they can do a $2.5 million building out here,
It should be a piece of cake.
do it in their spare time.
But that's what you're saying is not.
But, you do bring up a
That's-
good
that's
point.
the
Not if they-
initial response.
Not if they bid. Not if it's open for bid and we say, Mr. ABC Company, this is open for bid, why don't you bid on it while you're here? Because they've already done all their mobilization and everything, they're in the area, and usually they can do it cheaper. But if they do a bid like everybody else, there can't be anything wrong with it.
Yeah, you're creating now a win-win and advantage for them as well too, because now you got one project to go to the other, and plus you're maintaining your subs.
That's
a
correct.
little bit longer
That's
road
correct.
to carry through, so.
Yes.
Excellent, yeah.
So we're looking into that avenue to see where we can progress in that area.
And you're placing the concept is to remove that $500,000 marker out of our budget and utilize, or not,
No, leave it there.
It's
No,
not in the
we'll
budget.
be able
It's
to
a separate
stay in the red
it's
for
for,
that
it's for
amount.
reserve fund. We're gonna be, we'll utilize reserve fund to pay
Yes.
that, which
Yes.
frees up $500,000 in
Right, and so-
revenue for operating expenses.
Exactly.
So right now, we're at negative 300, but in reality, we're at positive 200. If we pay the
There we
five,
go, yes, you're
Yes.
correct.
and I'm just big
Yes,
numbers.
you're correct.
Yeah.
So if
Yes.
it's 500 that we pay out of reserve fund, or it's a 750 that we pay out of reserve fund, it's a reserve fund payment. It's not gonna be a further hit to this year's operation.
You're correct.
No.
So on page 45, Department 514, you'll see that marker, that $500,000 proposed budget under building improvements, and you can give me direction on where, if you want that number to move.
I think
And-
we should leave it there. Just leave it there.
What's that?
Let's just leave it.
Or we can increase it, and if it's used, it's used. If it's not, it's not. I mean, it's basically what's going on here. We either use the increase or we don't. It's just a,
If we put it in our budget, do we move that money out of our reserve fund into our operating fund?
no.
Okay, so we
No,
just
it just
run-
goes over, and my disclaimer.
And we're not running a
gives us-
deficit, we're still gonna have a balanced budget.
Of course.
But it's gonna look like we have expenditures greater than revenues.
Yes, and that's the use for this
And the little
disclaimer that I
footnote,
have.
And that's sufficient, and they'll make our new outside auditors will be.
I've
we
used
do
it
this.
before, we've done it before, because we have done this before. I don't know if any of you remember, but we've gone into the red so that we're able to use our fund balance, and this is what I've done before. I don't know what our outside auditor, our new one's going to tell us, but we're not doing anything in malicious intent, or this, I've done it before.
It's all clear,
so-
it's open. it's
Right,
transparent.
right.
The
And
fund
so they'll
balance-
either give me direction that I can't do it again, or,
And it's like the fund balance, when we get this settlement for the, with Volkswagen, that goes in that fund balance too, that 30,000 or whatever we're gonna glean out of that 50. That goes in that same
yes,
fund
and
balance.
I still need a little bit of, information on how that's gonna work, how those monies work.
It's gonna come in over the next decade.
Perfect.
That one maybe is the one.
I'll put that on my calendar.
Anything about it.
Oh, maybe it is, maybe it does.
I'm thinking this is
There
one.
wasn't broken down.
Yeah, this one's a real one.
Maybe it's 20,
Every
It's
little bit
not,
helps.
spend it all at once now, Commissioner.
Please.
I got the checkbook out.
Can you just, the settlement that we received in the Sheriff's Office building dispute, does that go into our operating budget for this year? Or
Yes,
is
sir.
it gonna
And
go
you'll
to our
see it
reserve
on
fund?
that, right above the red line.
Yes, ma'am.
You'll see the other source revenue, which was direction we received from our prior outside auditors of how to book it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have not certified those monies yet, because y'all have not seen my budget amendment, because there's several pieces to the current budget that I have to fund. So,
Some of that'll go down a little bit. The $1,750,000, the net, we're gonna pay, we're gonna use it to,
well, it'll just be, it'll just be moved into, because it's spent, essentially.
oh, okay.
And you'll see that when I get
It'll wash
the
it.
couple of pages I have, I've been preparing.
It's been quick. Okay, good to know. Should have asked that question.
Is it going already?
Please
Yes.
proceed. Moving on.
So, the raises are one of the things I wanted to discuss. Another caveat we have in here is our county court at law. We're still not sure about those numbers. So We have the budget in here. Of course, Judge mentioned that Live Oak wanted to take the admin responsibility for it.
Potentially.
That's
We're
potentially.
giving them as
So,
much flexibility as necessary and want them to be comfortable with this process. So.
okay, so whatever you give to us, we already have an expense line created if we're going to go in as one of the third or.
Which is what we hope
portion.
for.
Okay. Or we'll be able to keep it in here. So that direction you'll bring
Yes,
to
ma'am.
us and I'll adjust that. We discussed the IT build out, Road and Bridge. So Road and Bridge contributed, of course, to this, to the red line we see. So if you want to go to Fund 20, I want you to see the full scope of the amounts that we put in there. Let's go to Fund 20, page
79.
79.
And thank you for printing these with the page numbers so they show up on the bottom.
Yes, yes, Patricia's
Somebody went
been
to
hard at
extra
work.
trouble to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's
got
been
the
hard at
short list
work
there
for
last
sure.
I'm telling you.
So Road and Bridge is now at 0. And if you go towards the bottom of page 79, you'll see our transfers in.
That's right.
And I want you to see the increase from
Wow.
just 2 years ago when we started funding because of that special revenue we weren't collecting anymore. Now it goes into the general fund and we have to transfer out. So you'll see just 2 years ago we were transferring almost 1.2 and we are at almost 2.2 this year. So please let it soak in. Let that soak in.
I thought you were going to come up with some solution in the future.
That's y'all's job,
It's not gonna get any
solutions.
better
Madam
because of the
Auditor,
cost of
just to
goods.
have their 3 pieces of equipment in it.
Inflation is going up again.
Five.
We can't keep up with
5,
inflation.
which the first one is 4
4
vehicles, but they're the 5,
Line items.
the 5 items that they gave us.
Dump
That
truck,
is in
bigger
here,
dump
page
truck,
81.
Trucks.
A dump truck, tandem dump truck, the 4 vehicles, chip spreader,
Chip spreader.
and motor grader.
Yes, I think right, Mother can motivate,
Yeah.
which is good. It ought to set y'all up.
So you'll see on page 81, you'll see those figures. In the first year, when we finance equipment, we have to book the total amount, which is a wash because we have it in our revenues and we have it in the expenses. And then in that capital lease section, the 600 is where we have the payment, the first year payment worked in, and that is together with prior equipment that are still being paid off. And we were in what, the last year of this
I
one?
was
or
just
maybe
gonna ask
yes.
you.
We got 1 year.
One more year left.
This will be our final payment for the maintainer with his bank.
Okay, so the prior payment, that 107 or the 111, this next year will be the last year of it?
Yes.
Okay. So in 2024, or for 2025 budget, you'll see that drop off and it'll just be this payment that we have, which I think is 265,000, something like that.
Okay.
We did take out the employees as, you know, you gave me direction last time, so, again, paving materials have doubled. So we have that $1 million marker in there. That's the other big, expense in road and bridge budget.
And that's because the textile gives us all their little leftover piles here and there.
Thank goodness for that.
Thank goodness for that. It's good. You know, or else we'd really,
We'll take
that
what we
number
can
would be
get.
higher.
And now gasoline and diesel is starting back up.
So we'll see what happens again this coming year. The other note I have, if you're ready to move on from road and bridge, or did you have any further direction for me? No? Okay. DA budget, which is Fund 27. We have worked in those requests, and of course, Mr. Raleigh said they came and worked with me and Judge on his budget.
What page?
94. Yeah, 94 is revenue and 95 is your expenditure.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And what really helped in our district attorney budget this year is the appropriations, the new ones that we got, which are 33% for Live Oak, 11% for McMullen, and 56% for B County. So if you look at page 94 and that transfers in, you'll see the portion that B County pays and the reduction that we've seen, which we're seeing $50,000.
And McMullen's number went up, right? Because it was low.
Yes,
Yeah,
from
to
2% to 11.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to 11%.
Because it was
Yes.
like 3 or something?
Two.
2.
And so now the
So
apportionment.
and you'll see theirs up here too.
Yeah, the apportionment tracks the trawler sharing percentages, and we anticipate it'll track the county court at law percentages as well.
Good job getting that
So,
done.
yeah, no, you know, our sister counties of Live Oak and McMullen and their judges and commissioners are great partners with us, and so it was not they were more than happy to adjust those numbers, so I appreciate that.
Yes, very much, because we want to all pay our fair share.
We just hope they remember it when they do their budgets, because they're December 31st, January.
We'll reach out to them and give them our numbers to let them know what we're working with.
And I think their auditor, is it they now have an auditor and she splits time between B County,
McMullen?
I mean Live Oak and McMullen? Is it the audit?
Interesting, I
it's the
hadn't
audit.
heard that.
I think so. I could be completely wrong, but I think I'm right.
Yeah, because McMullen doesn't have one.
I'll go with it.
So
else?
you'll see that in the top of 27, Live Oak portion and McMullen portion. You'll see those differences. I gives you all that information on the revenue portion. In his expenses, we've worked in his increases for his assistant district attorneys. He's given up one of his vacancies, one of his vacant ADA spots, to take over Tiffany McWilliams, which is his first assistant. So she's now going to be included in this district-wide budget instead of in just Live Oak. So he's given up that position, and that's of course created some movement and less on his forfeiture fund that he was funding towards Live Oak budget.
And he has sufficient forfeiture funds available to cover his salary increases for the attorneys in his office in the event that Senate Bill 22, for whatever reason, that doesn't come through. So
His fund balance.
his
Fund balance
For 2
as
years,
well.
right? At least. What happens after that?
Well, if they don't have money to fund those salaries, the salaries may not continue on. That way, that's the difficult part about this issue is.
That this number, so if you see the bottom line in his revenue number and the bottom line in his expenditure number, the difference is $120,000, and that's the hit to his fund balance. And of course, this is a whole year, and so we're expecting SB 22 to pay in January, so it shouldn't be that large of an expense, but still, that's how we arranged his budget.
And we did make it clear to Mr. Avocet that this is, these salaries may not be tenable in future years.
So he's,
Can't afford it, can't.
And it's something you can't worry about now, it's in the future.
That's right.
You can be concerned about it, but you can't really worry about it, because that's the way it is.
It is what it is.
What other good news do you have for us?
Well, those were really the main things I wanted to point out. So really, it's the direction for the raises, because this is the last portion. We either include it or not.
I don't know that we need to do it, but we're gonna have one more meeting, right? We have one more meeting, as I said.
The next meeting on our calendar is September 5th, which is our first public hearing at 5:30. So unless you do a special
Might have a
call
special.
outside of the calendar, that's where we're at.
Yeah. So let me just throw it out here, so that we're all hopefully on the same page. And I haven't talked substantively with Chief Deputy Jones on this, so probably maybe prepared, usually you're prepared for the questions that you don't even know I'm gonna ask. But I've tried to keep the sheriff's office in the loop on how we're looking at SB 22 as it relates to their department. SB 22, the applications can be submitted starting January 1st. And it will, if what everybody is saying is true, it will provide additional funds. Is it $350,000 that can be utilized to supplement the salaries of patrol deputies and jailers. Is that correct too? And so the approach with the sheriff's office and jail is a little bit different to the approach with the district attorney's office, because the district attorney has these funds on hand that he can utilize to pay. So as we start off the budget year, we're not approving a budget based on something that hasn't happened yet. The sheriff's office is a little bit different. And it's, in my opinion, it's not ideal, and I've talked to April about this, and I would prefer, if we know it's a foregone conclusion, that we allow the sheriff's office to increase those two components of salaries as they see fit, on the assumption that they are going to submit an application and receive Senate Bill 22 funding. The problem from an operational and accounting standpoint is that there's no backup to support that if something goes wrong for whatever purposes. I'll also say that based on some of the information that I've been receiving on listservs and that y'all probably received as well, the salary amounts, even though we're following a salary study, we followed the recommendation of our salary committee. Those salary increases that we haven't included in the budget, but they're in the salary committee recommendations. Those amounts we can claim as part of the Senate Bill 22 amounts. But then even with those two numbers, there'll be additional resources available left over at the beginning of the year. And it's not to jump ahead of Mrs. Cantu, but it's our strong preference to address that after we receive the grant, moving forward and undertake be a straight budget.
Could be recertifying the monies and then increasing the budget accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a difficult situation.
Normally, we don't change salaries once a budget is approved. So if that, and that's gonna be, how do we use the word, how do we do this?
It's grant purposes. And grants,
Okay.
the grants we get all through the year, and when we get them, certify them and we
Okay,
work them
so
in.
if a person's making, let's just use $30,000, and they're going to 45 with this January money, we can go ahead and increase their salary because it's a grant.
I believe that is allowable. I have had an extensive listserv reviews, and counties are doing it all different ways. But a lot of them are waiting to certify them. And where you get into the weeds on that, Commissioner, is your elected officials. And so the sheriff is not in
We
this.
take care of it.
Right, so we're dealing with deputies and jailers,
Right.
which are regular
Oh,
county
non-elected
employees.
officials.
But
And
we've
so
also-
we'd be able to raise them with the money.
We've also met some of that, the salary committee's met some of those numbers, even if it does come to.
Well, no.
Not yet?
No, we
Not
have,
none?
for deputies and jailers, we are not at the minimum of what this SB 22
The
is.
45.
We're not there. And so when we discussed that in salary committee, these recommendations were just to help us get a little closer. And so even these recommendations aren't gonna get us there. So, with these SB 22 monies, we'll be able to get there.
Sorry. No. That's the issue. Chief Deputy Jones, you're not, I didn't call you beforehand. I mean, we've spoken about this a little bit. I'll let you know my thoughts. I'd open the floor to you if you have any comments or thoughts.
I've been waiting for this.
Regale us.
No, we've had conversations. It's it's all, to be fair, go ahead and give us some money in the hope that you might get in January, February, March. I understand. It is tough. To be totally honest with you, 40 to 45, it's still under what, it's still under the market value, and that's why we still need those people. It is what it is. Every little bit helps, and this is going to be a little bit that helps. I did have a conversation with you about the mid budget. We don't do salary in mid budget. We said, in order to say, yeah, this is a different angle. So, we get those monies, we can make those adjustments in here. Don't forget to continue on.
This money coming in from the state, we're not limited to that 45, are we?
No, minimum.
No, we're not
That's the
limited to
minimum.
45, and believe me, vendors know that already, that we're getting money. It's because once you take care of the 40 and the 45, you have the rest of that 350 to do for, if you use for other salaries, and that's where you get a little into the weeds. Dispatchers are not included in this bill. Now, the extra monies are we allowed to use them for the dispatchers, to bring up other people that aren't. There's also a very, the wording is a little vague. It's not patrol deputy, it's deputies who routinely make traffic stops. What does that mean? That'll be explained. And how do we use the money left over to augment those other, if we can. I agree with you, there's a lot of answers we can look at. So, let's get a little bit above that. Let's say we didn't have this, we would love to get it, we understand the economics. We also got to understand we're not additional, and running, we're running people out. We're not just looking to we just love one Saturday. Turn it over, got hit by a drug driver, now she's out. She's okay.
That's good. We've always done, you've got 4 building commissioners up here.
Hello.
Assist, shift coverage.
If you work on a Saturday, I believe you.
Deputizing.
We do have, what we try to do, and with this new facility we have, which is a great facility, we try to get a regional hub. And with that, we should be starting on the 28th, the regional jail academy.
I think it's pretty.
Cars, we're seeing, hopefully, go ahead and send that. You have to get a certain amount of people in it. I would love to have a jail academy. That's where, I think the wish commissioners, they've all got, well, Colin pays Delmar to do, well, it's the director of law enforcement training. Delmar is reserved. So, and one day do regional training, it's a good deal for.
That's why CDC doesn't do it, because COG gives all the money to government.
And CDC isn't certified to do it, and they haven't delved into that in years. There's a lot of things you can jump through. You have the two so close together at the same time, Victoria. So it's a matter of doing it. It's just CDC used to make challenge. You go through their 2-year degree, and you become a police officer without going through the academy. They took that out at practice. Anyway, get off topic. I'm sorry about that. It's hard pill to swallow. We want raises, we want right now, but we understand.
Well, as to the salary committee recommendations, I think those are, depending on what the board today, I think probably, I support adding to the budget.
Oh, I thought they were here.
It's the, if those raises can be greater because of the grant, I think, if I'm reading the room, I think we're probably more comfortable with addressing that in mid-budget year, which has a couple, it's good and bad on both sides. One, it's partial budget year for salaries. So, you know, if that grant is approved, if you get that grant, we receive those monies, we recertify new salaries for certain of your employees. We'll have all the guidance hopefully at that point in time so that we know exactly what you can do. There may be in this first fiscal year, because of the passage of time, 3, 4, 5 months in the calendar year, there may be additional funds that you receive that are left over in the first fiscal year that maybe you'll have more flexibility with to use for other approved purposes. And then that second fiscal year, you get the full, the employees will get the full benefit of that, whatever that grant amount is.
Because you could apply in January, it just came getting any money in January.
That's correct.
March.
It will be 2 years, 2 months into the year by then, October, November, but 3 months.
His office.
So it might actually
Right-hand
work out.
side.
It might be going this way and just waiting
Right,
until then.
right. Oh, that's right. There you go.
I would prefer, you know, try to do everything right now, but
Maybe
just,
Andy who's going to apply for the grant?
yeah, sheriff's office.
The sheriff's office, it's the sheriff's office grant, so yes.
Sharpen your pencil.
Who does
So
grant?
They would apply to the county
Yeah,
commissioner.
we have a POC on every grant, for sure.
Any assistance you need from the auditor's office, they're happy to provide it.
Oh, no,
I think that's fine.
I know Jen.
Jen.
Yeah, we're,
I like
no, we're just gonna give it a direction to increase this, and, but then
We're here.
that's a, we may. So let's see what changes. Well, still under agenda item number 2, and thank you all for allowing us to kind of delve into that and get it on the record to discuss the situation as it exists on the ground right now. Madam Auditor, with respect to the Salary Committee recommendations, the first page of the packet that you had handed out, is this something that you need official direction from Commissioners Court on? I'd entertain a motion at this time.
Move to approve, and we've already tweaked the commission, the elected officials, so.
Those are already in, these are already working, those are already working, those have
these
been
are-
done,
this is
those are
everybody
already
else.
in the
Okay.
ad.
Okay, I've seen
So-
some elected officials on this.
No, sir, these are the elected officials departments, these are just
Oh, I got you.
departments. Yes, sir.
I'll move to approve, and this is per the original.
Everything's off the recommendation.
I move to approve as written.
Second. I have a motion and multiple seconds. Rick, you can take your pick. Commissioner Olivares or Commissioner Farias? Commissioner Olivares, you're just although you're a little slow, you gotta move. You really gotta.
He's been weighed down by the.
I was trying to be courteous.
And I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes without exception. That'll run our number a little bit closer to the negative $500,000, maybe a little bit over the negative $500,000 number at this point in time. I don't think that it's going to be necessary, based on our conversation, for me to call another budget meeting.
That's all that I needed.
I really don't
You
think
know,
so.
unless something comes up between now and then, and of course, we can do changes up until we adopt on the September 12th is our adoption date. So anything that comes up that we have to adjust, we can do.
We'll take this time, and I know it's a little bit early because we aren't done yet, but thank you, April, thank you, Tricia, thank you to everybody in your office, thank you, Michelle, for all the work that you and your team do behind the scenes to get us to where all of these numbers come out and work for our county, our employees, and our citizens. Thank you for all the effort that you do every year on this. I really appreciate it.
And also working through all the changes in your office and shuffling around. That's got
Have
to
we
be.
included that?
It's all in a day's work.
Yeah.
Mrs. Cantu, we had discussed a salary increase for the secretary, clerical staff at the DPS office here in town.
Oh, yes,
Has
and
that
that
been
was
worked
already,
in?
that's already been
Thank
worked
you.
in, of
Thank you.
course, yes.
All right, any other questions? Any other issues?
No, just that we're, waiting for county court of law. That's kind of,
So you're just waiting on me?
You'll get it to me, Judge. But
I gotta
that
remember-
is the, little toggle here.
Okay. Excellent. Do we need to take any further action at this time?
Well, we do need to propose a tax rate.
I'm sorry, on this agenda item?
I don't think
We
we-
don't take any further action on this agenda item.
No, we haven't.
Did we, okay, so yeah, we did
Yeah,
vote on the
motion is second,
motion.
we have to vote.
Thank you, Commissioner. That was what I was looking for.
That's it?
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes without exception. Y'all think I'm really that eager to end this meeting? This meeting's gone so well, it's not even noon yet. But I guess I'll move on. Agenda item number 5, proposed B County tax rate for fiscal year 2023-2024.
So again,
Yeah.
I'm using the VAR rate of
.48564.
No, I want to be on the same page.
So the budget that we just discussed,
48564.
that's pretty close to being balanced. We're using the voter approval rate.
I'm using the voter approval rate, yes.
Any discussion before entertain motion? I'd entertain motion at this time.
Is there any special language or
Yeah, there's
special
no special.
verbiage?
No special language.
Okay. Motion that we approve the 0.48564 rate,
Voter approval rate.
voter approval rate.
I have a motion to approve the stated voter approval tax rate of 0.48564 per 100 as our B County tax rate for fiscal year 2023-2024. I have a second from Commissioner Wood. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, ladies. Thank you to all your teams. Agenda item number 6, set public hearing date for proposed B County budget fiscal year 2023-2024. Do we have those dates?
September 5th is going to be our first public hearing at 5:30.
September 5th?
September 5th.
At 5:30 in the morning?
Yes, 5:30. Yes.
You're coming
I
better?
want to see all your bright faces. Pretty early.
September 5th at 5:30 p.m. And what's the
5:30
second
p.m.
one?
We don't usually hold a second one because we, don't
No need it.
usually have to. We don't need it.
So I'd entertain a motion to set our public hearing date for the proposed B County budget fiscal year 2023-2024 for September 5th at 5:30 p.m. at the B County Commissioners Courtroom.
So moved.
I've got a motion. Do I have a second? I've got a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. We have no executive session items. We move to agenda item number 7, adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?